Nature Solutionaries is a podcast about conservationists who do amazing things for nature and bring inspiration into our lives. Today we're going to talk about Nigeria, which according to the UN estimates might become the second most populous country in the world after China by 2100. Because of a high fertility rate, Nigeria's population should grow from the current 224 million to about 790 million. The problem is that right now a third of the population lives in extreme poverty and about 133 million live in multidimensional poverty, which isn't extreme, but it's still poverty. In this context, where people face so many challenges every day, it's hard to imagine what life will look like for the future generations. To talk about this delicate subject, I invited Chidera Benoit, who is a Nigerian teacher of foreign languages and executive director of the Population Explosion Awareness Initiative. Through promoting reproductive health care and advocating for small families, he believes that Nigeria can achieve a more sustainable future in harmony with nature. Chidera, it's really great to have you on Nature Solutionaries. I know that you've got a lot on your plate right now trying to juggle teaching and this project, so thanks for coming.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
So my first question is, how did you become interested in sustainable population?
In 2018, I was reading the publication of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation called the Goalkeepers Report. And then I read through the graph and the chart for the population projections for Nigeria. I saw like the way the exponential rate Nigeria's population is supposed to grow. And then I was struck because that moment I got into a deep thought session, living in Nigeria, seeing how many people live in poverty and how it's difficult for a lot of people. So I was thinking, so if Nigeria's population is going to double by 2050 and things are like this, what's going to be the situation of people by then? Then I began to think, and then I realized that apart from bad governance that's in Nigeria, there are also things that individually we can do to help bring ourselves out of dire situations, and that relies in reproductive choices that we make. So I began to think, okay, so if we make decisions, if we make better reproductive decisions, informed decisions based on our reproduction, that's going to go a long way in reshaping the quality of life of a lot of people. Then I realized that I have to start up something as a form of solution to this problem, to contribute my own quota in making life better for many of the Nigerian poor people. So, and then if we make informed decisions based on choosing smaller family, then parents are going to have lesser financial obligations to their children, to the family, and that will increase the quality of life. So that's how I got interested in sustainable population.
So that was in 2018. Now we're in 2023. So did you start the initiative in 2018?
No, I couldn't start immediately. I was able to start the initiative by 2020. So I got the idea in 2018, but then we started officially in 2020.
And how many people work in the initiative?
We're like around 10 people, but the problem is that it's a volunteering terms. So some of us get to get jobs in paid positions somewhere else, and then it's fluctuating. The numbers are fluctuating, so we don't have like stable number of people. So we have volunteers. So we come in, some people come in, some people go out, and it's just like that.
And what type of activities do you do?
So we have different activities. We have a project called Population Talks with NYSC members. So NYSC is the acronym for National Youth Service Corps. So in Nigeria, every tertiary institution graduate undergoes the National Youth Service Corps. It is a program that every tertiary institution undergraduate undergoes. So I got the idea that since these young adults are at this stage, these young adults are at that stage, at that point in life where they start choosing life partners and starting new families. So we got to engage them to talk about the population and the effect it's having on the quality of life. And also, the effect of population goes a long way to affect the environment. So because as the population is increasing, more and more houses are being needed, more resources are needed to feed, to provide energy for the growing population. And as the population is growing, it's in the course of this work that I got to realize how connected the growth of population is to the environmental issues, climate change and environmental issues.
Yes, you're right. Everything is interconnected. And what type of feedback do you get from these graduates when they first hear you talk about this topic?
It's like mind opening to a lot of them, because when someone graduates in the African society, let me use Nigeria for instance, when you're from a large family, and if you happen to be among the first, once you graduate, your family responsibilities automatically get transferred to you. Even if you get a job and start working, you have to be sending money home. And that goes a long way in stalling the progress of the young professionals in their careers. Because maybe if you keep sending money home, you won't be able to have enough money to register for professional courses to progress your career and all that. So you find yourself stagnated because you won't even realize that's what's happening, because you feel obligated to your family, because coming out in the first position in the family and then graduating, you feel like, oh, if I don't do this, my younger ones are not going to graduate. But in reality, these younger ones are not per se your direct responsibility, because your parents created these ones. You're supposed to start, thinking forward about your own life, your own family that you're going to start. And then you find a lot of people get stuck because of this situation. Generally, it's called black tax. So it happens to a lot of people. So when we talked to these young graduates about the black tax and what's happening to young professionals, so they get, kind of struck, realizing what's happening in their life, that this is actually true. So we get some reactions of astonishment, self-realization and all that. So they get to, some of them even say yes. So they keep nodding as you're talking, because even during school, when you're still in school, maybe coming from a large family, you realize that people from smaller families, they have it easier. Maybe you need money to buy some materials in school. You find out if you're from a large family, it's always harder for your parents to send you money for upkeep and all that, because before they even settle your younger ones, feeding alone, food alone for the whole family has already gulped up money that your parents are making. So they find it difficult to give you pocket money to do some necessary things that you have to do as a student. So the graduates, they profess what actually happened, that this is actually what happens to them.
I'm always surprised why people keep on having children if they can't afford to, feed them or pay for their school. Why do you think that is?
Sometimes it's culturally installed in the minds of people because maybe in some cultures, like in Nigeria where I'm from the Igbo side of the culture. So there's this cultural value of a male child. It's a Nigerian thing, actually. The male child, in the cultural sense, if you don't have a male child, if you die, it's been said that your lineage have died, like your lineage closed up because you didn't have a male child. So you find out that if somebody is having female children and then they don't have a male child yet, they keep having more and more children. And sometimes some people believe that when you have large family, that it's something to be proud of, that the man is doing well, stuff like that. So it's I think it's culturally installed in our mentality. So, and it's something that you don't get to realize until you've finished doing yourself dirty, and then you find out that you're in the situation that you're always struggling because you can't meet up with the financial obligations for your family. Some people in Nigeria, we have in the northern and the southern side of the country. So in the north, the north is predominantly Muslim and the south is predominantly Christians. So in the north, a man is entitled to 4 wives. So you see somebody that doesn't have a job, you have 4 wives, have 15, 17, 18 children, and then these children are being sent out to go and beg on the street. And it's just like that. They see it as, a normal thing. So these children growing up without parental care or parental love, it goes a long way in affecting the growth and the mental well-being of these children and how they turn out as human beings in the society.
Yeah, I mean, the poverty must be such a big stressor for people because if they can eat, they wish to go to school, but they can't, and then they have a very bleak future, right?
Yes.
Have you experienced any of this, as you called it, the black tax yourself? Do you come from a big family?
Yeah, I come from a family of 7. So they gave birth to us, 7 of us. So even though I lost one of my brother in 2019, so we're 6 now. So it's and many people are from different large families. Then when you go to the north, you even see very larger families where you have, because they are entitled to marry 4 wives. They marry. You see families that are up to 28 children. There was this member of House of Representative in the Nigerian House of Representative before the 2023 general elections that happened in January. In February, he came to the house and was boasting that he actually brought his 4 wives to the chamber and ordered them to stand up, and then showed them off to the house and say, these are my 4 wives and I have 27 children. I'm expecting my 28th child. So for this upcoming general elections, I expect that they are going to put a polling unit in my house so that my family don't have to go out to vote, so that my house will be a polling center. So you imagine that kind of mentality, somebody thinking in this direction, just because you want a polling unit in your house, you're making a family of up to 28, 29, 30 children. So you see that it's kind of, I don't know, I think culturally installed in the mentality, and then the level of education and level of understanding of individuals.
And do you see this situation changing, or is it still the same? I mean, these fertility models.
Yeah, it's changing actually because in 1988, the fertility rate then was around 6 children per woman. So the Nigerian government then they came up with the national population policy in 1988 under the administration of Ibrahim Babangida. So they were promoting four is enough. It was a four is enough campaign. So now we're at 5, even though the difference is not much. But currently, the younger generation are beginning to realize the effect of large family and the effect it can have on your financials based on you being a parent and then having to take care of the many children, and then seeing how things are. Even in those days, things were cheaper. Now things are more hard, things are more expensive, and everything is worse in terms of price of things. So if you're making a large family, you have to be ready to take the responsibility. But some people don't understand yet. A lot of people actually, because the cultural and religious effect on the minds of people get them to be obstinate about the idea of family planning. So that's why we have to come up with real life situations. Like, say, for instance, if two men are working in the same office and both of them are earning 100,000 naira, and one has 7 children and the other has 2 children, obviously the family of the man with 2 children will have a better quality of life, because the money that the dad is earning, it will be more spread out to cover for the expenses of the 2 children than the family of the man with 7 children. Before the man with 7 children would even finish sorting out feeding for the 7 children, the one with 2 children would have sorted out the feeding and have extra money for education of the 2 children. So it's when you talk about real life situations like this, people get to see that actually this is true, and then if you don't change, you're just going to go on to suffer the consequences in the long run.
The thing is, this is all true, but the social norms have to change so that it's acceptable for people to have smaller families,
Yes, like some people, due to high religious influence in Nigeria, it's hard for some people to express like their sexual behavior, even though in secret they are who the opposite of who they present to be. So let's take, for instance, maybe someone wants to buy condom. When they go to the pharmacy to buy condom, they can't say what they want. They wait for people to clear out before they demand that they want a condom, so that nobody will know that this is what they want to get. But then that fear of being seen buying condom will make a lot of people not want to go there even, and then they end up with unwanted pregnancy, and then that's the reason why we have a lot of abortions in Nigeria, even though abortion is banned, but still it's happening. Around 1.3 million abortions every year. So, and that's because people are pretending. The religious people believe that abortion is bad, but then they also don't believe in going to get condoms to protect yourself. And then people come up with unwanted pregnancy. So that's like a conflict of interest. So I believe that if we're able to re-engineer the mindset of people to be true to themselves, to acknowledge the importance of contraception, it will go a long way in curtailing and slowing down the rate of exponential population that's happening in Nigeria, and also uplifting the quality of life of a lot of people, and also also creating a better environment, making way for a better environment, because as more people are coming in, more green spaces are being cleared for housing. We currently have 28 million housing deficit in Nigeria, around 28 million housing unit deficit. So, and that's why house rent is galloping in almost all the cities. So it's a connected, interconnected social and economic challenges.
It is. Speaking of the living standards, I was quite surprised that the life expectancy in Nigeria is only 54 years.
Yes.
I would assume that by, giving women the possibility to use contraception and thus decreasing the family size, families would be better able to take care of their children, they could go to school and they could live longer, and the environment would also get better. So yeah, it all makes sense to us, right, when we're talking about it, but it's hard to explain it to other people who are influenced by these norms that are so deeply ingrained. Actually, I think it all comes down to patriarchal values. Of course, it has something to do with religion, but the thing is that these religions are patriarchal. So the problem is the patriarchy. What is being done about the unmet need for contraception by the government?
The government is quite aware of the exponential population growth. And the fact that the government came up with the National Population Policy, it shows that they know what is happening. They know that there is a problem, but then they are not putting their money where their mouth is, because government is not funding family planning in Nigeria. The family planning funding mostly come from donors. So when donors are not donating money for family planning in Nigeria, the services are getting lesser and lesser for people that need it. So government is aware of the problem, but then government is not doing enough.
But why? I mean, is it because they don't have the money, or is it because they prefer to invest the money in something else? For example, industry or...
I think it boils down to that patriarchal values, because the Nigerian government is made up of mostly men, leaders. So in 2006, the government came up with a policy called National Gender Policy, which stipulated 35% affirmative action of representation of women in all levels of government. But in this last election that happened in 2023, February, in the House of in the Senate, we have only 3 senators, and then only about 17 women out of 469 members of the legislature. So it doesn't come close to reflecting the national gender policy. So, and then when the men are in control, and then they want total control of their mindset due to the cultural values that's already ingrained in their mindset. So you get to see that these actions that to uplift the rights of women don't come to be like the forefront, don't come to be of forefront importance to them. So I think that's one of the things that's like making them not actually be serious about funding family planning. Because when you fund family planning and then make sure that women know their right, and then and then get to have less children, the women, they have a better level of leadership, and they become better placed in the society. And in the Nigerian society, the mentality is twisted in a way that men has to always dominate. So I think it still boils down to that patriarchal values, why government will have policies like that, and then they don't go all out to implement it. Nigeria has quite serious problem with implementing policies. like the national gender policy, in 2022, the revised version of national population policy came out, which stated all the things that's supposed to do to increase family planning, but most of these policies don't ever get to be implemented the way it's supposed to be. So it's a big problem that's consistent with the Nigerian government. They don't get to implement policies as they are supposed to. Sometimes things are there on paper, things that government is supposed to do, but they don't get to do it.
Yeah, that's super sad because it's not in their interest, right?
Exactly.
The men want to dominate the society. They're actually satisfied with the status quo that women are pushed away into households where they just take care of children and they're not free to decide about their bodies, not even, pursuing education or career. So this is bad. Unfortunately, this is happening in many parts of the world, even here in Europe, when you were speaking about the representation of women versus men. Here in the Czech Republic, I don't have the actual figures, but I think that it's also pretty low. So, yeah, but speaking of the population policies or supporting family planning, what do you think should be done? I mean, the government knows that it's a problem, but they're not doing much about it. So
that's why like organization like P Initiative, where going all out to inform people and create the necessary awareness. That's the best track to take, because when people are aware, then they will take the next step of finding a solution to their problem. So the younger people should get more interested in the population issues and family planning, so as to have a greater level of awareness for people to voluntarily make informed choices about their reproductive behavior.
But since the population is well over 200 million, you would have to be hundreds or thousands of advocates, talking to people.
Exactly. That's why I say younger people should, more and more younger people should get interested in the issue of population, so as to create more and more awareness to a greater level, where more and more people will be aware of the situation and make informed choices in order to have a better quality of life and also have a better environment.
I initially thought that women's empowerment is all about women, but I realized that it's a lot about talking to men. So when you talk to these graduates, are you talking to both girls and boys and, for example, their parents, or how do you go about it?
National Youth Service Corps is a group of men and women, young graduates. So the lecture takes place with both combined sexes, men and women. So we get to, there was this particular session that we had, and one of the guys was like that when you're talking about family planning, you don't need to involve men, that it's not the men's problem. I was like, no, that's the problem, because now with the kind of mentality you have, when you get married, you might start bossing your wife around on this topic. Maybe she says she wants to get a family planning, and then due to the fact that you already have a strict mentality about it, you might tell her, no, don't have it. Or, when she doesn't want to have it, you might tell her, yes, go and have it. So it's a both way thing. So the men have so much influence in the families in our African society. So without involving the men, then it's just like solving the problem halfway and then leaving the other part unsolved, which is potentially is going to present roadblocks for the desired progress and desired outcome. So the men are also involved in the lectures. So because it's the both sexes that we want to get to. So we get to both men and women, because it's the duty of everyone to get this message across. It's for both sexes.
I read and heard that often in these family planning decisions, it's not just the couple that plays role, but also the mother-in-law or the family
Exactly.
where the couple lives. So how do you, it's great when you talk to these people and they're nodding and saying, yes, I'm going to do it like this, I'm going to be free and I'll decide how I want it. And then they go back to these families where they will eventually live, and they have very conservative thinking. Have you thought about this?
We tell them that your life is not your mother's life or your father's life or your in-laws' life. You have the right to make decision about the trajectory where you want your life to go. So living your life out of another man's decision, you will only have yourself to regret. Let's say, for instance, there was a day I was in a car with my mom, and then some conversation came up, and then I said I wanted to have only one child, and she was like, "What? What do you mean?" So she was like, "No, that's not funny." I told her, "But this is my life; it's not yours. So I get to decide." So I was like, maybe if I have to, that can be the maximum, but I just want to have one. So she was like, no, but then with time, she got to realize actually that he is right, because he's talking about his own life and I'm not talking about her own life. So she gets to respect my decision because I explained to her that this is my life. So in the same way, every young person have to be stern in explaining to their whomever, parents or relations. And in real life, you don't even owe no one explanation about your own life, because it's your life. But then out of just to explain, you can just explain to them that this is how I want to live my life. And then you just go ahead, because when you have children, none of them is going to come and babysit or maybe take responsibilities. I remember some years back, we were like a group of guys. We were like maybe around 5 of us, and then one of us was telling his life story, that his relations and parents and relations were always drumming marriage into his ear. Get married, you have to get married, this and that. So he was like that he didn't want to get married. But then the way they were also nice about it, they were supporting him financially, and then all of them contributed, and then he eventually got married. And then the wife was pregnant, and then the first delivery was through CS. He was like that the stress that he went through that night, and then when the wife was lying on that bed and he needed some cash and he didn't have enough, and he was calling these people that forced him practically to get married, and all of them were like, oh, my own child has this problem, I just sorted my child's problem. He called the other one, he said, oh, my husband this and that. He called the other one, oh, my last one, I just paid the school fees of my last 2 children. And he realized then that his life is in his own hands, that the fact that these people were talking to him about marriage doesn't mean that they are going to come and take responsibility of what's happening in the house for him. And at that moment, he realized that this is his life and he has to take charge and make decisions based on what he thinks.
That's a very powerful story, I must say. So how do your brothers or sisters perceive what you're doing? Do they agree with you, or how do they feel?
Yes, they do. They actually encourage me and tell me that it's a great job I'm doing. I get feedbacks from people. Some people come and tell me from what you told me and what I heard from you, I have decided that we are going to get family planning. And then one person recently just told me that he decided that him and his wife was going to the hospital to get family planning because of how I explained to him that he already has one child and then it's not quite easy for him now, and if his wife takes in again, that it's going to be more difficult. That what I said was true, that he's going to get family planning immediately with the wife. So I was so happy when I get feedbacks like this. It makes me so happy because I know that we are making impact in the lives of people.
Oh, this is so wonderful. Yeah, when you get direct feedback from people,
Exactly.
it's invaluable. All right, so Chidera, thank you so much for the interview. You were really a pioneer, and you're blazing a trail, and it's so important that you're speaking about these topics and opening up conversations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation.
Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. I hope that it left you with a feeling that no matter how challenging the environment where we live can be, it's worth trying to change it for the better. We can all be solutionaries. If you enjoyed this episode, why not listen to the next one? The easiest way is to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or get a monthly newsletter by subscribing to it on my website, veronicaperkova.com. If you have one spare minute, please consider sharing this podcast with your closest friends. I really appreciate your help. I'm Veronica Perkova, and I look forward to talking to you soon.